Welcome back to Module 2, Mood Disorders. This is Lecture 3. In this lecture, we're going to talk about the prevailing models used to understand depressive and bipolar disorders. Think back to Module 1, when we spent a great deal of time talking about the major models of psychological abnormality. The dominant model for understanding both depressive and bipolar disorders is the biological model. Let's begin by considering depressive disorders. There's a large research base suggesting that depression is caused by low levels of two specific neurotransmitters, serotonin and norepinephrine. This connection was discovered by accident in the 1950s, when scientists observed that certain medications used to treat high blood pressure caused depressive symptoms in the people who took them. These medications, in addition to lowering blood pressure, suppressed serotonin and norepinephrine activity in the brain. This finding led to the theory that depressive disorders are associated with low serotonin and low epinephrine activity in the brain, and it launched research into the development of medications that increase serotonin and norepinephrine activity in the brains of depressed people. Not all research into the biological basis of depression has investigated neurotransmitter activity. There's been a great deal of research into the genetic basis of depression. This research has investigated the extent to which depression can be passed from parent to child. Studies have shown that depression does in fact run in families. Studies of identical and fraternal twins have also demonstrated a strong genetic component. If one identical twin has a depressive disorder, there's a 38% chance the other twin will develop it too. Among fraternal twins, if one twin has the disorder, the other twin has a 20% chance of developing it. Let's turn now to the biological model of bipolar disorders. Scientific research into the biological basis of bipolar disorders has also investigated the roles played by neurotransmitters and genetic factors. The findings are very interesting. Like people with depression, people with bipolar disorder have also been found to have low serotonin activity in their brains. However, unlike depression, bipolar disorder has been found to be associated with high levels of norepinephrine activity. These findings have led researchers to believe that the interactions between these two neurotransmitters influence whether a person will experience unipolar depressive disorder or bipolar disorder. And what of the research into the genetic basis of bipolar disorder? As you may recall from the last lecture, bipolar disorder affects between 1% and 2.6% of the world's population. In families, however, the prevalence is very different. If an identical twin has bipolar disorder, there is a 40% to a 70% chance the other twin will develop it too. Among fraternal twins and non-twin siblings, if one sibling has the illness, the other siblings each have a 5% to 10% chance of developing it. Clearly, there's strong evidence for the heritability of bipolar disorder. Are there any other models that are in wide use to understand these disorders? For bipolar illness, the answer is no. A biological model is the only accepted framework for understanding the origins of this disorder. The same cannot be said for depression, however. Several other models are used to understand depressive disorders, the most prevalent of which is the cognitive behavioral model. Let's consider it briefly. As you may recall from the first module, the cognitive behavioral model asserts that psychological abnormality occurs when a person's thought patterns become significantly distorted and impact both emotions and behavior. Aaron Beck is widely known for his cognitive behavioral theory of depression. According to this theory, depressed people have identifiable patterns of negative thinking. Beck developed the concept of the cognitive triad, which is the notion that depressed people interpret their life experiences, themselves, and their futures in consistently negative ways, and this is what causes the depression. Beck asserted the cognitive triad leads depressed people to make errors in thinking, which are logical errors that worsen their depression. For example, a depressed person with a negative view of their future may receive a poor grade on an exam and think, I'm not smart enough to pass this class. I'm going to be a failure forever. I may as well give up. In fact, it is not logical to assume future failure based upon one poor grade. Beck's theory also emphasizes automatic thoughts, which are beliefs about the self, world, and future that are so fundamental and so deeply ingrained that we do not notice them. They're automatic. Beck theorized that depressed people demonstrate a pattern of deeply negative automatic thoughts. For example, I will never succeed no matter how hard I try, or no one would ever want to be with me, or I'm not as smart as other people. Another well-known cognitive behavioral theory of depression was developed by Martin Seligman and based in early animal learning studies. This is called the learned helplessness model. The learned helplessness model asserts that a feeling of helplessness is fundamental to the development and experience of depression. If a person has repeated experiences in which they try and fail to effect change in themselves, their external world, or their personal future, they become depressed. There's been a great deal of research conducted into the validity of a CBT model of depression, and there's an impressive body of data supporting it. The question of cause and effect remains, however. Does a pattern of negative thinking cause depression? Or does depression lead to a pattern of negative thinking? In our next lecture, we'll take a look at treatment interventions for mood disorders.